I would be heavily invested in my brand. What do I represent? What makes me me? How can I be authentically me? And that can be product, that can be branding, that can be positioning. And I would be heavy on getting people that align to being authentically themselves, because then I know we're at least going to be speaking something that speaks true to us, which means we're going to be successful, right? That's how I would start. If I had to start all over again, that's how I would start.
Welcome to MLM Nation, a podcast of leaders, by leaders, for leaders, hosted by Simon Chan. He's built a team of over 200,000 and is now a full-time MLM coach and trainer. So if you're ready to level up your business, join us now. Let's do this.
MLM Nation, this is Simon Chan. I'm fired up to bring our special guest today with something a little bit different, but it's going to be really good. I'm excited. We have Andrew Armstrong. Hey, Andrew, are you ready to make it happen?
Oh man, I'm so excited to be here. Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Andrew Armstrong has over 15 years of experience in network marketing, both as a distributor and in corporate, and also owns his own consulting company for direct selling companies. He's worked with numerous multinational network marketing companies and has helped them successfully implement compensation plans, enhancements, and created promotional strategies, and also successfully expanded to new markets. Andrew and his family live out in West Layton, Utah. So, Andrew, take us back in the day, 15 years ago. What were you doing and how did you get involved in network marketing?
It's a great question because, when I go back, I was a starving college student, didn't have two nickels, was trying to make ends meet. And I had somebody who approached me about something, and it was as simple as, if you sign up and you buy this pack, you're gonna make $100 your first month. And back then, like, $100 to me was probably like, it was gold, right? I mean, I was thinking groceries, gas in my car, all those things. And so, I joined. I went to an opportunity presentation, joined, grabbed the pack, made $100, and then that's honestly where it all got started. It was, a need for filling the void of, cash flow in the bank, and the rest has just kind of come as a consequence of getting started that way, right?
So what made you decide to go more into it?
I fell in love with just the way that, this channel, this industry, the people that are there, the way that it can transform an ordinary person's life and make it extraordinary. I've seen countless people be affected in countless ways of how well this industry has blessed them, how it's set them apart, and honestly allowed, their innermost desires to be magnified, right? Those that have a purpose and a heart to doing good, that gets magnified as this industry does that for people. And so fell in love with it because people change, magnifying the best that there is in the world and making it a better place. That's honestly what's made me stay in it for so long.
So as a college student, how old were you back then when you first
Oh,
started?
I was 20, 21. Yeah.
So you had success pretty quickly because you made your $100 pretty fast.
Yeah. It was pretty awesome. If we want to talk about the months that followed that first $100, there was a lot of single dollar months in there, but yeah, started off with a quick bang for sure.
So let's talk about that. A lot of people, they get started, they make nothing.
Yeah.
So what happened? How did you have success relatively pretty quickly? You make $100, right? And then you went into like starvation mode, no money.
Yeah. So, my setup, I was living in a house with, so six other people at the time. And I just took the pitch that I got because I knew they were all in the same situation. We were actually all working, for the same company. It was, doing security at night for construction jobs or, renovations or things like that. And I mean, you're making, $6 an hour doing that. And so, I knew they were all in the same spot. So I just said, hey, come with me to this thing. It's going to be 45 minutes. All we got to do is we got to buy this thing. Here, this is all the information you need: name, address, phone number, all that stuff. And, let's go make a quick buck, $25, $50, $100 as it kind of stacked through the tree. And so, I got six to enroll day one. And then came starvation mode, right? Where it was like, oh crap, I got to go out and find other people, right? Like, I don't have any more roommates in the house to go and, take advantage of. So then it spread throughout the network of, okay, who else is working this job that maybe doesn't live in the same house as me? Who else would benefit from something like this? And honestly, just went from classroom to classroom of people that I knew that were in the same state of life as me, just trying to make ends meet, and said, hey, let's go figure out a way to, make a quick buck. And the products are great. Let's go make it happen. Right.
So what happened though? Then how come all of a sudden you stopped? You just ran out of people? What happened?
Yeah, yeah. So my warm market was, those six people. And then after that, I was like, oh crap, I need to go find more people. And it instantly went from warm to absolute freezing cold because I didn't know anybody else outside of those six. And so, that's what took those starvation months of just figuring out how to talk to people about product, how to talk to people about the opportunity. How do you convey it in a way that makes people say, oh, like I want to do that too, instead of coming off as that weird, like, oh, that sounds weird. Why would I want to do that? I had a lot of mistakes made early on of saying those things all the wrong way, which was, obviously the months following of saying, okay, I got to figure out how to change, how to make this work, all of those things, right?
So what was the turning point or aha moment where after that things started taking off for you?
I found my ability to and I use the term sell in a very like light sense, right? I found a unique way to position products with problems that people were seeing, opportunities or business with things that people were struggling with, and found a way to just not be the expert, right? Because I felt back then like, oh, I'm super smart. I know exactly how to position this, right? And what I found was that I was the endless feedback loop of answering questions, answering questions, answering questions. And ultimately, I found that if I could pique their interest just enough to have them come and sit in a room, and listen from somebody else who was successful, then I didn't have to do any of the talking. So the aha moment for me was, okay, how do I leverage somebody else that does have the success or the product experience and say, listen to these guys. They're not me, but listen to them, and then you're going to be able to see how that applies to you. That was that turning point, that aha moment for me.
What year were you in college when you joined?
So this was 2009, 2010, 2011. Those 3 years.
Okay. So how did you go from, and you were, before we started the show, you said you were a distributor for about 2 years or so, and then you went to corporate. How did you go? What happened there?
Yeah. So, that first distributorship, we were going great in the US. We expanded internationally. I had some experience going to international markets and seeing how that could grow and be effective. And then I ended up actually moving. I moved from one state to another, and in that move, there was like this moment where the company that I was a part of, that market didn't continue on. It got shut down, and I basically lost that stream of income. It wasn't very much, but I lost it. And so I had to position and get into something else. What I realized was companies like that existed all around the United States, all around the world, in fact. And there was a company in that new state that I moved to that was hiring. And I was like, let's go try out the corporate side. Let's go see what, the corporate side's all about. Because if I can take what I know now and I can talk to people on the phone calling me every day and saying, what can I do to be better? I'm like, this is great. I have people calling me. I'll use my skill set to go and help them change their life, their team. So that was that turning point for me.
Yeah, but how do you go from the mindset, like I'm going to work for myself, right? Being a distributor, to now I'm going to be part of the company on the other side.
Yeah, yeah. So, in that first piece of working for yourself, there was a lot of freedom and excitement that came with that. And ultimately at the stage of life I was in, I needed something that was going to be a little bit more, let's say, consistent in terms of income, right? Young kid, recently married, thinking about, family, college, all of those things. I was like, okay, I need to go to something that's a little bit more consistent in terms of income. And that company that I was a part of, shut down. The country that I was repping got shut down. And so I didn't have anything to go and rebuild with. Right. And so those kind of 2 points, I think, are the reason that mindset switch of, okay, let's go to something that's a little bit more consistent. Yes, it is that 9 to 5. And that was hard, right? Because I was used to just jamming out on the phone every day, calling people, going to local meet and greets, networking. And you go from that to essentially a desk job, right? Where you're sitting down, you're answering the phone. It was definitely a mind shift for sure of, okay, How can I be effective in this state, not in my usual setting? That was a hard transition.
But it's interesting that you stayed in direct selling instead of getting a job in somewhere else.
Yeah, what I found on the corporate side was that, the same aha moment I had being a field leader where, I realized that I had a knack for how to talk with people, how to realize, okay, what's your problem? Let's get to a solution. Let's work through that. What are the next steps? I found that came super easy for me. And then, moving into the corporate side, what I saw was that I could talk to hundreds of people and have that same conversation loop and see it affect on a grand scale, not just like a singular scale with me or my leaders or my team, but I could do that across the whole company. And so it honestly, I mean, that drug of like, man, I love seeing people succeed. I loved watching them succeed and those breakthrough moments. Like that's what really just, it sunk its teeth into me and it's made it stick all the way up until today. Right.
What is your proudest moment being in corporate?
Oh, I think, the proudest moment I had was, in these last few years was a part of a project that was, going to reinvent or, come with a better identity to the table of how a company could center around its positioning with product and opportunity after it had been stagnant for a few years, right? And I mean, this was a massive undertaking, massive project, took months to come to fruition. We were going to launch it at convention. And my proudest moment was there was a sticking point after sticking point after sticking point. Project should have been canceled probably 6 or 7 times, right? But we bounded together as a team. We launched it, and I remember vividly the moment that it got announced at the event. You could feel in the room this sensation from the leaders that were like, this is the tool I've been waiting for, this is the tool that I've needed. Oh my gosh, these are all the different ways that I'm going to be able to change my business, going to be able to change my team. I'm excited again. I feel like I can make another run. I got gas in the tank. Those are moments that I don't think I would change for anything, because that's when you really see that light bulb of, okay, we do know how to make it happen. We can make it work. Let's go run, right?
How have you, being on the corporate side, how have you seen the industry change in the last, and especially I'm asking this question, as of this recording, yesterday we had a major company that just went to affiliate model. Again, affiliate model. I think this is the third or fourth company of the year. Now, there's not to scare any of the viewers or listeners, there are thousands of companies, but this was a big one. I think the third or fourth one of this year. How has you seen the industry change for in terms of uh, harder? It's harder for someone to be succeed.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think as we look in today's day and age, there's been so much that's come to the table about how people they want to have a presence on social media, they want to grow their following, they want to have better engagement. But then they're always caught in that nebulous between, I want to grow my engagement, I want to grow my network, I want to do all these things. But then on the other side, what they're doing or what they're seeing is, well, I grew this business being belly to belly, event to event, getting in front of people. And so they're having a hard time kind of waffling between both worlds, right? And so I think that's kind of been like almost the identity crisis, right? Of where people are like, what world do I have to be in order to be successful in today's day and age? And I honestly believe that you can be in both worlds and you can be successful. It's finding the balance between them of how can you grow your presence and your engagement online, because I think that's necessary, especially in today's day and age. But how can you cement that community, those people that you make those connections with possibly an in-person or some type of other connection point that makes it a little bit more real, right? Like, okay, it's off of Facebook, it's off of Instagram. Now we're texting, or we're on the phone, or we're Zooming, or we're meeting together. I'm flying to see you. I think there's a balance between those two worlds. And I think the hardest part for corporations right now, especially with what we've seen this year with some of those companies that have been around for a bit, they struggle. Where do we push people? They see leaders going one way, they try to push them a different way, and they're having a hard time figuring out that path. I think that's been the hardest point, at least this year for sure, in figuring out what lane do I run in, right?
You've been with multiple companies on the corporate side. What works? now? I would say, let's say in the last 5 years, and what doesn't work well?
I think the crux, this is going to sound super simple, right? And I'm not trying to oversimplify it by any means, but the biggest crux that I see is that you need to have leaders that you will engage with. And by that I mean, how are you communicating with them to figure out what are the struggles that they are experiencing, right? Now, of course, that list can be lengthy. It might be, a few critical points, and you as the corporate person, you have to sift through that to realize, okay, what's the biggest pain point? What one is dependent on the other? So you have to do a little bit of judicial niche on your side of figuring out what is the priority. But if you're not communicating with your leaders and you're making those decisions in a corporate silo vacuum and then trying to push that onto the field, I think that is the biggest miss, honestly, because then you're trying to convince people, I'm smart, this group was smart, we know what we're doing, go out and do it, and your business is going to be successful. When in fact, you could have just established the communication bridge to say, okay, problem A, what are the reasons problem A exists? And then the leaders go, okay, it's this, and this. Okay, well, we could fix this today. This is not going to be an issue anymore because we fixed this, and then we'll go to work on that. And then all of a sudden, you have the bridge, you have the communication gap fixed, and then leaders are bought into it because then they're a part of solving that problem, right? So communication is probably the biggest point that can make it or make it miss, right?
So right now, your official title is what? Vice President of Field Development? What was your official title?
Vice president of sales, yeah.
Vice President. So what's your typical day like? Is it mostly on the phone with leaders? And then what's your typical hour? Because I think a lot of people, when I was building, I was like, well, what does people in corporate actually do, right? Aside from being at events and doing
Yeah.
conferences. What's your typical day like?
I like to be one that is on the phone a lot. I like to engage with leaders, whether it's on the phone, Zooms, texts. I'm probably the worst corporate person as it relates to emails because I feel like that kind of maybe sucks my time out. But I like to get elbow deep with the field in the trench to say, okay, how's it going? Right? What's happening out there? Because I like to take exactly from the words that they're using to say, okay, let's go fix that. Let's go identify that. Or it can be the inverse where it's like, let's go pour more gas on that fire, right? Let's go make that. Let's run with that. Let's go. And how can I help you? What can I do? I would say probably 75% of my day is texting and on the phone, engaging with people at every stage of the business, right? Top leaders, mid-tier leaders, new people, just to get a pulse for where things are at.
What's the number one thing people complain about? Or not complain, but like share about, like the leaders?
Yeah, I think it's speed of change, right? Like, let's say this is not a problem people complain about, but let's say, you want a new banner added to the website and it takes a little bit longer than, what they think it should. It's like, well, why does that take so long, right? And unfortunately, it's, when you run fast, you break things, right? And so corporate has a tendency to kind of slow things down, be methodical, and I definitely think there's a good balance, right? Like you can't be too fast, but at the same time, you can't take days to make simple changes. And so I think there's always finding that right rhythm of, okay, we're being fast enough to keep and being agile with what the field leaders need, but not going so fast that other things break in the process. And then you're fixing 10 more things than what the original ask was.
Well, I have a story to share. And that's why I respect you guys a lot because I think as leaders, and we don't like to hear this, right? But sometimes we don't necessarily know that the best that's for the field. I always seems like it doesn't matter what post we're, or it could be the leaders group that Rob Sperry has, right? Or like, it seems like, the corporate's not getting it. They're too slow to change, whatever. But I remember I was one of the top distributors in my company and I was in the independent distributor council. So I was voted as one of the top representing. And that year we had, another company was doing something and we were getting just like beat up, right? And then we got to do this. We got to do this car bonus. We got to do this. And we all brainstormed everything. And, like every leader was on board. I think it was 10 of us. We were all on board. We came up with a game plan. And then corporate never did it. And we're like, what the heck, man? We just wasted all our time and stuff. But then, like looking back, I was much younger back then, right? I was like, it was a good thing corporate didn't listen to us because the company that implemented that car bonus, they went out of business in 2 years. Right? It was like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, our company, we were literally have killed our company. So I think sometimes the leaders have to really, I think, give corporate more respect. Like they actually been around like you've been around for a long time, and not just from one company, from different companies with different products and services. You kind of know, and network marketing relatively hasn't changed that much, right?
Yeah, I think the essence is still the same, right? We have great products, we have a great business opportunity, and we're honestly just trying to share that, right? Those essences haven't changed in multiple decades. And I think there's definitely a right balance. I've been very fortunate in my career to work with some incredible leaders that, I've been fortunate enough to be able to be probably more transparent than most on like, okay, I understand you're asking for A. I can't do A because of, one, two, three, but I could do B. It's not A, but it's B. And so can we figure out a way to make B work? And that's where, at least for my experience, my perspective is there's always a way to figure out how to solve the problem. And maybe it's not what the direct ask is, right?
Yeah.
Like in your example, right? Like, hey, we need this car bonus. It's like, well, fiscally, that's unresponsible of us. We can't do that. But could we come out with something that maybe isn't called the car bonus, but maybe it's some other incentive? I think that's been like a missing link for so long in corporate and field relations, is figuring out how to get to the middle, right? And find a way to say, this is going to benefit you. This is judicious on us to be able to figure that out. Let's go make it happen, right?
Because I think the agendas are also different. The short term the leaders are more like a short term, right? So like getting back to the car thing, we need that car bonus because we're losing out on the field right now. We're losing people to this other company. People, but then like for the long term, I think leaders like we just need to get paid now. For the long term, that would have been terrible for the company. And actually, that's what happened to the company that did it. They got 2 years later, they had all these car leases and people quit. It was a huge nightmare. I think you probably know what company I'm talking about. But,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think leaders generally, I think they should have a more short-term focus because they're looking for impacting on their sales today. But the corporate, they have a more of a long-term in terms of protecting the company focus.
Yeah, and I think neither one is right or wrong in either regard, right? I think you do need some short-term wins in order to keep people the stickiness, right? But you also need that long-term there to be able to create long-term residual checks, long-term payouts, long-term team building, and again, figuring out the way to get to the middle of accomplishing a little bit of both. I think that's where things get real fun and real engaging for both
Yeah.
corporate and the field, right?
I mean, now you brought up an idea like back then. Our company never did it, but if we had like a short-term bonus of something like a car bonus, but short-term, not like a longevity, not like a for the legacy thing, that actually would have, fired up the field because it was, oh, we actually have a car thing too. But even though it was maybe like a 3 month thing, wasn't a long thing, some type of incentive that would have definitely have helped. Um, what is the biggest threat to network marketing now?
Oh, that's a great question.
And let's just talk about in the U.S., not talk about other. In every country is different, right? In the U.S.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think the biggest threat to, I think, the U.S. is distraction, right? And what I mean by that is there's always been new companies, there's always been legacy companies, there's always been new things rolling out, there's always been things changing, and it's real easy to get distracted by the noise, right? I mean, I love being in Rob Sperry's group because he talks about this a lot, right? Is that there is so much that's happening out there that there's enough for you to focus on yourself, right? Whether it's your company, your team, your brand, your thing. There's enough to focus on there that the distractions, I think, are going to be the ultimate hindrance towards growth, towards people feeling like they're a part of a community, towards any type of momentum, success, is just the distractions that are out there, right?
And I think distractions, it covers everything from whether it's
Yeah.
another company or what's on Netflix tonight, what's the new show being released, right? Or what's on TikTok right now that your friend just posted or
Yeah.
your coworker is sharing with you. Or anything that's one of my mentors once told me that there's more things taking you away from network marketing, encouraging you to stay in network marketing.
Yeah, your mentor was very wise because I can relate with that. I think, just the distractions from the industry alone, from other companies, other leaders, etc., that can be enough. But then you topple on, regular life with that as well. Just comes back to discipline, right? How much time are you going to be committed towards building your thing, your team, your leaders, your brand, your product, etc.? How much time are you going to dedicate, and how can you stick to that? How can you stick to that? Avoid the distractions that are coming, that are, frankly, there. I mean, just with the news we saw yesterday, that's distraction enough. Been on the phone, and number one question everybody asks is about that. And it's like, okay, I understand that happened. Let's walk through it. Okay. Now back to, what are you doing? What's today look like? How are you engaging? Who are you talking to? And it just gets back to those basics, those principles where you can say, okay, let's turn, let's light the fires, and let's roll.
How has the gig economy impacted network marketing? Or hasn't been, you don't think that much of an impact?
Yeah, I think what it's done is it's shifted the mindset of the normal average person, right? Which is where the industry is thriving, right? Is with the normal average everyday person and creating an extraordinary outcome. This was back in the days when Uber was relatively new, but I was taking an Uber, and I was talking to the lady, and I said, "Hey, how long you been doing this?" She said, "Oh, I've been doing it just a few months." I said, "Well, what made you get into it? Because it's new, it's exciting." And she said, "I know that if I do 3 rides, if I do 3 rides today, I'll have," I think it was like $25, $26. And she's like, "I'm going to take that money that I earned today. I'm going to go and buy diapers because I need diapers. So I'm just doing 3 rides and then I'm done. So you're my third ride. Congratulations." And I think that's where it shifted it for people, is that, you know, maybe a decade ago, maybe even 5 years ago, it was about, you can create an incredible life in this channel, in this industry, with these products, with this opportunity. And I think it shifted for people to be like, I just want to plug in. I want to do some behaviors, some activities, maybe on a daily, maybe weekly basis. And I know I'm going to make a little extra that's going to help pay the car payment, maybe the mortgage, maybe grocery, whatever it is. I think that's where it shifted for people, for the average person to say, I would love to make $100,000 or whatever a month, but I'm really okay if I'm making 26 extra bucks so I can go buy diapers. And then that's just one less thing I have to worry about. Right. I think there's almost been some normalcy in figuring out that gig piece of where we all play. Right.
There's no right answer for this or wrong. But I'm going to share with you more what I think. Do you think it's better to lead with like the gig economy thing, and have a compensation plan where it's easy to earn money up front? Or should you still leading with that dream?
I think, my own opinion, just based on what I've seen, I think the dream has to come later. I think it has to come later, because I think people are way too skeptical nowadays to think that the dream can be real, right? They think it's some type of scheme, or it's not going to ever happen, or how can I be that person? I think the majority of people would plug into something that feels simple, feels concise, feels achievable. And they do that. And then they see, oh, like, I did it. I got paid, or my products are producing this life changing result for me. Okay, now I'm a little bit more interested and open to hearing about the dream part, or the bigger, how can I play a bigger role in this place? I think you have to lead with the simple and easy first to get people in to experience it. Then they'll be much more apt to saying, okay, yeah, let's go do this.
Well, there's no right or wrong answer, but I actually take the other perspective. I
Okay,
feel like if I was a prospect, again, I'm different, right? But like,
sure.
if it was earn a couple $100s in network marketing or Uber, like I'm doing something, yeah, I'm skeptical. So I may not make any money in network marketing, while Uber is guaranteed money. I may hate it, but it's guaranteed. I can make the diaper money. I can make the $200. Well, network marketing is a risk. So in order for me to take that risk, it's got to be a big reward, right? Like if I'm not going to do network marketing just for a couple $100. I have to sacrifice my reputation, my friends, the rejection. I'd rather do Uber or just Uber Eats and deliver food. But because I can make 6 figures and retire from a job, okay, now I'm going to try out this network marketing thing. But again, there's no wrong answer. It's just a different way. Everyone's different, the way they see this.
Yeah, and perspective, right? Like every prospect's different, and I love your approach, right? Because yeah, it needs to be worth it. I do need to make X amount of money or X amount of this achievement or this rank, or I hit this incentive trip, because then it's worth it for me. I totally understand that and respect that. I think there's definitely a vein in this world for people that fall into that category.
I think, when what got me into network marketing was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I thought I got to live the dream, right? If you
Yeah.
ask me, if you can make a $300 or $500 a month, I'm like, oh, it's probably not worth it. I'll maybe go get an MBA or something like that, right? But to be able to not ever have to work again in 5 years, I was like, well, let me try this out. So, anyways, different people. Like, I think it also depends on who you're talking to, too, right?
Oh yeah.
That makes a
For
big,
sure.
big difference.
Yeah.
You've been awesome. Like, and by the way, ML Nation, all these questions were not planned or anything, just off the cuff. I'm putting Andrew on the spot here. How do people stay consistent? That's a question, right? Like the top leaders that you work with, all very consistent. What are some hacks and routines? And I mean, you're very consistent. What do people do to stay consistent?
I mean, this is probably the $1 million question, at least in today's day and age, right? Because again, multiple distractions that are pulling you away from everything. I have found that, many of the leaders that I work with, they want to achieve three things a day, right? And I refer to it as my top three. Whenever I talk to them, I ask them about their top three. I said, all right, what's the top three today? And sometimes the top three, maybe one of it is business related and the other two is networking. Maybe one is family related. Maybe the other two are business related. I mean, it can ebb and flow, but there's three things a day that you're saying, these are my top three most important things to move the needle today. What are you doing? And I have found that if I do that, it doesn't matter what else is on the list. It doesn't matter what else I achieve, what awesome aha moments I have, or incredible connections I make. Those top three allow me to consistently progress and move down instead of feeling like I'm stuck, or I'm just, oh, it's Groundhog Day. It's Tuesday again. I feel like I'm starting over. Those top three, I think, is what I've seen from multiple different leaders, how to stay consistent.
Hey, thank you so much for your honesty and for these answers to these tough questions. As we wrap up, some really quick questions to pick your brain, and these can be quick one-word, one-liners. The first one is, what is one of your favorite success quotes that motivates you?
Oh, okay. One of my favorite. Hold on, let me pull it up. I'm going to pull it up here. One of my favorite success quotes is from FDR. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena and who, at worst, he fails, but he fails by daring greatly.
What's one habit that's helped you become successful?
Like tracking, putting down goals, aspirations, pen to paper, or typing it out on your phone. Put it out there into the universe, see it every day, and make it happen.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
The best piece of advice is don't apologize for being authentically you.
What's a recommended tool you use that you recommend for leaders? Like if they were, say, if an interested prospect, do you find most people do a one-on-one? Do you do Zoom? Do you use a company video or personal video? What do you see most leaders using?
The shortest pathway to success I see is intro video that piques interest, follow up by a real conversation. That can be on Zoom, phone, or text. But short video, pique the interest, follow up, and then close the gap. That's what I've seen work time and time again at any company.
What's your favorite app on your phone that's not a social media app?
Oh gosh, man. My favorite app is probably going to be Canva, because I'm trying to get more into social media. I'm trying to have a better presence there, and I've found that I'm spending a lot more time there trying to develop that.
What are 2 or 3 books you could recommend?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I actually have let's see. I'm going to say oh gosh. Oh, why can't I think? Be the One by Justin Prince. I just finished that one. It's amazing. Um Getting to the Yes, and then let's see, Unreasonable. Like those are three that I've just finished probably within the last 3 months, 4 months. They've been amazing.
And here's the last question, the $1 million question. You ready?
Yes.
Imagine you had to start all over again and you knew nobody but you had all your current knowledge, skills, and wisdom. What's the first thing you do or the first place you go to build a network marketing business from scratch?
What I would do if I had to start all over is I would be heavily invested in my brand. What do I represent? What makes me me? How can I be authentically me? And that can be product, that can be branding, that can be positioning. And I would be heavy on getting people that align to being authentically themselves, because then I know we're at least going to be speaking something that speaks true to us, which means we're going to be successful, right? That's how I would start. If I had to start all over again, that's how I would start.
As we wrap up, any last words or advice? And then what's the best way our listeners and viewers can connect with you, Andrew?
So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. LinkedIn is probably more of like a corporate place. So if you're there, those are probably the three best places. And my best advice is that, as the year has been crazy, as so many things on my bingo card weren't there, but now they are. I mean, figure out the way that you can consistently be you. How are you being authentically yourself? And how are you leveraging that for everything that you want to accomplish? How are you going to accomplish your dreams, your aspirations, big vision? Are you being authentically you in that? And if you're not, let's figure out how to get you there so that way you can accomplish that.
MLM Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And today you've been hanging out with Andrew Armstrong. So keep up the momentum. Head over to MLMNation.com, click on the podcast tab in the show notes with a summary or the nuggets that Andrew shared, including the links to his profile, the recommended books. They're all there. Make sure and definitely follow him on social media and connect with him. In order to be successful in life, in business, and in network marketing, you must help others. So Andrew, thanks again for sharing your valuable time with MLM Nation. We're grateful to you, and we appreciate you for having a positive impact on millions of distributors worldwide. Thank you so much again, and God bless you.
See you guys.
Hey, MLM Nation, Simon Chan. A quick recap here from a great show from Andrew Armstrong. That was a little harder one for me to do. I haven't interviewed anyone from corporate for a long time, but he had a unique perspective, different industries, different companies as well. And I've seen the industry really change a lot. And I wanted to ask those tough questions. And I think in many ways, the industry has changed. In many ways, it hasn't changed. It's still a relationship business. People buy you. You talk about the $1 million question is, what would you do? Work on your personal brand, be authentically you. And then the biggest enemy, the biggest threat is distraction. And I think in that way, network marketing is harder than before. I always talk about right now is the easiest time to convince someone to do network marketing because everyone knows someone, thanks to social media, everyone knows someone that has been successful, right? Either directly or indirectly has seen it. But at the same time, people get distracted so easily. And it's not just a distraction for other companies. It could be, hey, what did my friend post on TikTok? What did he do on sports? What did he do on ESPN? What did he do on Twitter? There's so many distractions, or just the personal development alone. There's so many distractions, right? So many leaders are talking, so much noise out there, and that distracts us from doing what's important. And if you're struggling with consistency, I love what his advice was because he talks to all these top leaders. He's like, every leader chooses 3 things they need to do. That's the DMO, the most 3 important things, and they do it over and over and over again. And by staying consistent, that's how they get results. Great episode there. And I talk about the distraction, the threats, what works. Communication with leaders is very important. If you are a leader, you have downlines, communicating all the time. And I think I wanted to share a story. Sometimes we feel like the corporate is slow. And I shared my personal story on when we wanted that car bonus. And thank goodness we didn't do it, because if we did it, the company probably went in deep trouble and I wouldn't be getting the residual income I get. I still get a residual income from a business I built 21 years ago. So thank goodness we did it and we listened to corporate because corporate had more of a long-term perspective. But then there is a balance, right? And I'm not saying you want to agree with Andrew or myself, whether it's like, for example, leading with the gig economy, a few dollars, or leading with the dream. I always believe in leading the dream. But I guess it also depends on what prospect or what products you're doing. But anyway, let me know how you like this episode. Number 1, go follow Andrew on social media. Make sure you just subscribe this episode. If you need people to stay focused, send them this episode. Hey, distractions is the enemy to success. Stay focused, stay focused, stay focused. But I think one of the coolest parts of network marketing is seeing people life change, having a purpose-driven life, having a positive impact, right? That's why Andrew's in this profession, because he's able to change lives, right? It's not just the distributors, the corporate plays a big part of success too. We're all in this together. We're not enemies, whatever. We're working hand in hand together. So make sure you definitely follow Andrew, follow him, amazing guy. And for those who are, I did mention this, I was going to mention this in the show about the Rob Sperry group. That is for six-figure earners and above. So if you're a six-figure earner above, and you have to be verified, by the way, and want to be part of the special group, it is free. Let me know, reach out to me. I'll connect you to Rob and we'll get you in there, right? But that's a great group of really good conversations, especially what's happening in the industry. But at the end of the day, this is an industry that changes lives. It's changed my life, changed a lot of lives that people have, who I've seen, what Andrew has worked with. So we are in the right place. And it's the only, for the average person, it's really the best way to get the life of freedom, to be able to work whenever you want to work. I don't say time freedom, because if you have kids, there's no time freedom, but time flexibility and the money to do what you want. So, hey, I'm loud and proud to be part of this amazing profession. That's why I have MLM Nation. Please subscribe and leave a review for the show. Subscribe to us on the YouTube channel as well, and also on your favorite podcast. Make sure you follow Andrew Armstrong as well, and take something you learn. I think there's one thing you learn is to stay focused. That's the enemy to success, is distraction. Stay focused and go out there and have a positive impact on someone's life. God bless you all.